Hey everyone, about a minute to go here. People are still joining us, so I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes, and I'll get started. Thank you for joining us. All right, here we are. It's a little over 2 p.m. Let's get started. So, hello everyone. First of all, happy Thursday, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jefferson Barr. I'm the head of marketing here at Netstock. We thank you all for taking time out of your very busy schedule today to join us, because I know we have slam-packed schedules. Hard enough to find 45 minutes out of your day to do anything other than your day job. So thank you for that. Just a few housekeeping rules. So everyone except the panel will be on mute. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the toolbar to submit your questions at any time. We'll answer these questions at the end of the session. And today's recording and presentation will be sent to all attendees and registrants. So just a quick plug for anyone who may not be familiar with Netstock. We help small and medium-sized companies better manage their supply and demand planning with smart yet easy-to-use software. We've been doing this since 2009 and work with over 2,400 customers worldwide across multiple industries and verticals. And our mission is super simple: to help these SMB customers, these small and mid-sized companies, level the playing field against their larger competitors. So I hit the slide a little too soon there, but so just a quick overview of the landscape. So Netstock is just finalizing our annual benchmark report. Our inaugural report was last year. We're launching our next one at the beginning of October. But some of the big takeaways are that 63% of our respondents report tariff impacts due to higher costs or reduced purchases, while 49% of these have absorbed costs to maintain inventory levels and to support customer service levels. And the proverbial elephant is still in the room. Guess what? Companies still need strategies to help navigate the continued supply chain disruption. And across industries and regions, the pattern is the same. Your inventory balloons, cash dries up, and service levels suffer, all because potentially your demand, supply, and finance are out of sync. Well, today we're going to illustrate how sales and operations planning, otherwise known as S&OP, can help address these issues, freeing up cash, improving fill rates, and driving profitable growth. So I myself cannot do that, but we have our esteemed panel here that can help us with this. I always make the joke, these guys have forgotten more about sales and operations planning than I'll ever know. But having said that, we have Eric Capinos, Principal IBP Consultant here at Netstock. Eric's been on both sides of the fence as a practitioner, working for major organizations, and as a consultant working for providers. Eric, say hello to the crowd here.
How's it going today? Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you, my friend. And we also have Michael Ryan, managing partner at the M. Ryan Group, which is known for 60 to 90-day turnarounds that boost fill rates, free up cash, and improves EBITDA. Michael is a longtime friend and consultant to Netstock, and we're happy to have you here. And I'm going to go to another slide and throw it over to you, Mike, to give us a couple of seconds on, or not seconds, but give us a minute or so about what's M. Ryan Group. I know you can wax on poetically for hours about this, but
I deliver results quickly, but I do need more than a couple of seconds. So
you got it.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here presenting today with Eric. I'm a fan of Netstock. I've used it with several of my clients. 20 plus year experience in Fortune 500 supply chains, and the last 8 years been really focused on those middle market manufacturers and distributors to help solve supply chain and inventory problems. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing here if I can. Let me try to do that. Stop sharing. I'm not.
So hey, Mike, how are you? How are you doing? It's been a few minutes since we've talked.
It's probably been about a few minutes. So good. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Eric. Thank you for asking. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm busy, but being busy is definitely better than the other option, right?
Amen. Definitely beats the alternative.
The world of Inventory Advisor and the IBP solutions at Netstock are keeping us busy. But I end up talking about the S&OP process frequently. It seems to be kind of a popular topic.
Well, it is. It's, helping people and helping businesses solve problems, improve fill rates, free up cash. Right. That's something that's nice and fun to talk about. So,
That's right. I have an S&OP joke. Do you want to hear it?
uh, yes, please.
Okay. You're a true S&OP consultant when your idea of fun is debating whether consensus demand is really consensus. Now you really know you're an S&OP consultant when you start debating what form of consensus it is.
Well, and maybe this is more along the line of a dad S&OP joke. When you look at an uninvited dinner guest as unexpected demand. But well,
So I have to ask, do you get many unwelcome guests, Michael?
occasionally, but they're of the welcome kind. Like we do get a fair number of drop-ins, and it's usually people that we are happy to see. So, that's why it's always good to have a little bit of a buffer built into the plan, so we can absorb any changes in demand, any demand variation.
I love it. So I have to ask, I'm struggling here. Am I still showing my screen, host panels?
No,
That's fantastic. I was sharing my screen before, correct?
no.
I was not the whole time.
Yeah, it was your smiling face, Jefferson, which is all good.
Well, you know what, guys? I promise I'll do a better job of sharing the screen. So hopefully you were able to work with me through that section. So, all right, so let's get started. I'll try to do a better job of the host here. So let's start with what S&OP is meant to fix. What pain points do we see most often, guys? So, Michael, let's start with you.
There are three that I see most commonly with my clients. First and foremost is inventory growing faster than sales. So buying more product than they're selling, or producing more product they're selling, and just tying up millions of dollars in cash. The second one is obsolete and slow moving, or as I like to call it, slob, slow moving obsolete inventory is just clogging the system. So this is a case of literally and figuratively, too much of the wrong product. And the third situation is where a business is making too much of what I'll just colloquially call the wrong stuff and not enough of the right stuff. So this is where it's either a problem with the demand signal or a problem with the supply signal, that the mix ultimately is off. So these three things: inventory growing faster than sales, slob inventory, and overproduction or production of the wrong stuff, are the three most common pains that I see.
Eric, how about yourself?
Well, what I've run into a lot in my S&OP travels, one of the things is sales padding forecasts while operations kind of scrambles. Sales likes to send a signal that projects strong growth, so they're sending the impression of planning to be successful, but at the same time, you'll see operations scrambling to fill current orders, which is kind of an interesting situation. Finance being in the dark, no single version of the truth. They may be operating off the annual operating plan when the world is unfolding very differently, real time. And then back orders and poor fill rates pushing customers to the competitors. Customers have a choice and not always that empathetic about your lack of product availability.
Yep.
That's great. So let's kind of move on to what S&OP is. So Eric, can you kind of give us, the clearest definition possible in this webinar of what it is, and we'll talk about what good actually looks like for S&OP.
Yeah, so in a simple sense, sales and operations planning is just a regular process where a company's sales, marketing, supply chain, operations teams come together to agree on one shared plan for the business. So what your goal is, your destination, and how you're going to get there.
Mike, what about yourself?
Yeah, I agree. And for me, sales and operations planning is where the rubber hits the road. It's managing those trade-offs across demand, supply, and finance, and really having the conversations, those cross-functional conversations to bring everything together. And it's kind of a thank you, Jefferson. It's kind of
I'm
a
actually sharing the slide properly now.
it's good. It's almost a double entendre in terms of, when we talk about when the rubber hits the road, I call it the S&OP wheel. So it's a closed loop. The process begins and ends with demand, right? We need to understand what we're going to sell, to whom, when, how much, so we can properly plan the supply. And then that balance or any trade-offs between demand and supply, that happens in the balancing meeting. From the balancing meeting, right, we propose solutions in terms of right, how we're going to adapt either the demand or the supply. And then that gets overseen in the executive S&OP. And that last step, that last step that bridges the wheel is the product review. So most commonly for businesses who are actively managing the life cycle of their products, new products in, old products out, going from the executive S&OP to the product review, that then builds the bridge back into the demand plan. So this becomes a closed loop process. So every month, every cycle, we gather feedback, look at the metrics, what went well, what could we have done differently, and we loop that into the plan.
So it's all about the visibility and the collaboration between the different groups, right?
100%, yes.
Yeah, it's so important. All right, stop sharing. So what does this S&OP journey look like, Eric, in your mind? I mean, if you can kind of help us visualize it through words, what it looks like.
Yeah, well, I'd really view it definitely as a journey through kind of the maturity of S&OP. And the analogy I would use is you kind of start with a traffic jam. Sales, operations, finance are all using different numbers. You'll commonly hear things like, which forecast is that? Is that our operations forecast? Is that our account forecast? Is that Kevin in finance's Excel model? You'll hear a lot of different versions of the forecast in use. We move on to kind of the clear highway. You're starting to work to one set of numbers. Real conversations start, and you'll see it shift to people referring to it as the forecast. Then we move into the express lane, so we're really kind of starting to pick up velocity. Forecasts improve, plans go pre-active. You move to what you're going to do now to what you're really going to do in the future and what the outlook is and how you're going to get there. And then we kind of land ultimately at the scenic outlook, strategy and execution align. You're looking at a longer term view. You're looking at different scenarios, options. And that's really kind of how I've come to view the journey.
Got it. Mike, what's your take on this?
So it's interesting, and I think this is one of the reasons
Something
I've
like-
enjoyed working with Eric so much, is that we bring different perspectives. So what I see most commonly is in the beginning of that journey, there isn't any agreement on the destination. So what I like to say is sales is going to the beach, supply chain is going to the mountain. So all the interested parties don't even agree where they're going. And then from there, it's okay, hey, we're going to make a decision on, we're going to go see the Statue of Liberty. Okay, the next step is what route are we going to take? Are we going to take the scenic route and back roads? Are we flying? Are we taking the train? So getting agreement on how we're going to get to the destination is the second step. And then it's, okay, we want to get to the same place at the same time. And from there, right, this is where like Eric and I come back together. It's getting to that scenic overlook where you can look out over the horizon, looking out much further than the business had in the past. And everybody is aligned and everybody is looking at things the same way. And ultimately, and again, this is why I enjoy the conversations with Eric, is we both end up at the same place, right? The journeys may start in a different place, but we both ultimately end up at the same place.
So, Mike, you would almost say it's as much about the route you choose as the destination.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's almost like I was thinking about it when we were talking about this earlier, like having differing opinions or point of views can help triangulate what good looks like, right? I mean, you have multiple approaches to achieve the same means, but you're all moving along the same track. I mean, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that diversity of input's great, coming from different points of view. And I think what we just did was a great example of a productive S&OP conversation. We shared points of view, kind of saying the same thing, but it was also an alignment process.
Absolutely. And this is, you know, when people talk about collaboration, in my mind, I'm a simple man. When I talk about collaboration, for me, it's really conversation, right? Let's have a conversation to see, what's the best fit, what's the best route, what's the best destination, how much time do we want to take, how fast do we want to go. So yeah, Eric, you're spot on. I mean, this is by default a great example of an S&OP conversation.
It's interesting. It's interesting. So, all right. So proof that it works. So let's make this real for the audience. So can you share any examples of S&OP successes, Michael?
Yeah. So Jefferson, the first one that comes to mind, $150 million supplement manufacturer. They had no process. They had no system. The forecast was literally a black box. And the only thing the business agreed on was that the forecast was wrong. So, in this case, it was a S&OP kickstart, rapid 60 days. And what we saw, those first benefits, we picked up 6 points in fill rate in the first 4 months, and were able to free up $4.2 million of inventory in 6 months. So this is very much kind of a proof is in the pudding of getting the right people talking about the right things at the right time, creates tangible benefits.
So that 6 point increase in fill rate is huge, and I'm sure it made the CRO and especially the CFO really happy, right?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, just to put it in perspective, in $100 million business, a 5 point improvement in fill rate can be worth up to $2 million in EBITDA. So that to me is the bottom line.
If you sell it and can't fill it, it doesn't help you, right?
Right. Have to be able to collect the cash.
Yeah.
And another example, work with a client, $80 million capital equipment manufacturer. This is one where the sales forecast was overly optimistic, and the procurement team was buying to the sales forecast. And these were expensive custom fabrications. I mean, big, big money. So what we realized was that the sales plan, well, it didn't align with reality. And because the procurement team was buying to that plan, we needed to realign the procurement team on what the actual tangible, believable forecast was. And in doing so, we freed up almost $7 million, $6.9 million in cash in the first 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to blame sales, right? Usually, no, not really. But without sales, we're nothing. But
Right.
but yeah, I mean, so that kind of collaboration saved a ton of money. But can you talk about what do they do with that freed up cash? I mean, that's money going to the bottom line.
Uh,
Do they?
so first and foremost, thank you, Jefferson. Thank you for asking the question. First and foremost, this business used about half of that cash to pay down their line of credit. Right
Big,
at this
big.
point, and right, this was a couple of years ago. Their cost of capital was 9%. So by being able to pay down that line, right, their interest expense went down, and they got back into the good graces of the bank. And the other half of that, they were able to reinvest in their business, specifically around new product line development and sales and marketing.
That makes sense. That's
Yeah.
great. Eric, I'm sure you have a couple examples as well for, for the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What you're able to do with the S&OP process as a result of the process. I've seen companies able to cut inventory 20% while improving rates. By going through that process, you can align your service level goals with your customer team to best service your customer while balancing that with inventory strategy, what the impact is to cash flow. You're doing that cross-functionally, so you get the right product to support the right customer. You're able to actually bring down your inventory while improving your service.
Yeah, that's a hard one to get a head around sometimes. It sounds contrary, like, okay, I'm going to reduce my inventory, yet improve my fill rate. So, but with this type of collaboration, you can actually achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. So having a solid forecast that's cross-functional, that has the right inputs in it, so that you're making the right amount of the right thing and not making the wrong thing.
It's the magic formula, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything I've seen is, retailers eliminating stockouts during promotions by aligning the flow of promotions, demand and supply. Promotions can be very large at times. And so how that maps out over, 8, 12 weeks or more from a production standpoint and how it flows to the customer can make a big difference in your service level and how it impacts your operations. And having those inputs that come into an S&OP process and talking through it in a collaborative and more organic fashion can make a real difference in terms of your service level in more extreme situations like that.
Yeah, it's funny on the not funny, but interesting rather on the benchmark survey. We see a lot of companies are doing promotions to try to draw down some of their excess inventory. So you have to be super careful when you're doing that. That try to draw it down, but you don't want to be stocked out either. So
Yeah, I mean, that is really the best way to turn inventory to cash is, well, let's sell it. So, having those promotions to help, make product that was could have been slow moving, turn that back into cash. I mean, that can help accelerate demand and create some really good wins for the business.
yeah, it makes sense. All right, so moving on. So next segment. So starting the journey. So if a company is starting from scratch with S&OP, where do they begin this process? Starting
Yeah,
from
no,
scratch.
I like to think of it as three steps, assess, align, and act. So you assess, you clarify the problem, you apply the 80/20 rule. So you go after the big things that drive and impact your business. Define time horizons. So are we talking about tomorrow, which we probably shouldn't be. We should be looking out a little farther. Align, secure executive sponsorship, assign ownership of the different steps of the process, and then act. So pilot with one product family and build momentum. So you can start small. You don't need to start with your entire product portfolio. You can pick one portion of it that's a good candidate, focus on that, and learn how to get that right first.
It's the old Pareto rule, right? 20, 80, 20.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and for me, it's interesting because, like, again, Eric and I end up at the same place, which I enjoy and I appreciate. For me, it's starting out with define the problem that we're trying to solve. Right? Is this a fill rate problem? Is it a cash flow problem? Is it a customer issue in a channel or a segment? So begin with the end in mind, define the problem we're trying to solve, and from there, and this is really one of the ways to help make the business case. is let's quantify the opportunity. If we were to take out $1 million of inventory, that's anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 that positively hits EBITDA, right? So quantify the opportunity, and then pick that one KPI, that one key performance indicator that moves the needle, and get leadership involved. Get them actively involved, not so they're just a recipient of the data or a recipient of the report out, but have them involved, get them to where they have the data and they can ask good questions, because that leadership engagement really can change the whole equation in adopting both the S&OP process as well as tools and technology to support that process. And being able to, I found one of the key unlocks is being able to visualize data. I've been to meetings where somebody will put up a spreadsheet that's 25 columns across, 50 rows deep, and 6-point font, and the planner says, "Hey, what do you guys think?" And it's painful. It hurts. So
Yeah.
being able to visualize the data is huge.
Yeah, can you make that larger? I don't understand what you're showing me. So I just so happened to pull up a dashboard that I think Eric can speak to here.
Yeah, no, this is a great example of using data in a meaningful manner that gets to the point without boiling the ocean with detail. One of my favorite tricks is to use dashboards like this to embed in PowerPoint slides for your monthly S&OP deck. Dynamic, refreshable, can save you a ton of time and looks good.
Yeah, and Eric, I love this dashboard, and it's really interesting. So I had a client, they implemented Netstock, and the CEO of the business, every morning, the first thing he did was log in and look at the dashboard. And it did two things. One was it enabled them to ask really insightful questions. Hey, I notice our fill rate has trended up in this category, right? What are we doing differently? Or, hey, I know our back orders are climbing in this category. What do we need to do differently? So, number one, having the CEO engaged and looking at the data, right? That drove great questions. And the flip side of that is everybody else in the organization understood that the CEO was holding people accountable for their performance. So they knew that the more effective they could become in the S&OP process, the more communication that they had, the better the business was going to be. So, having that leadership engagement can really create a lot of support inside the business.
Yeah, it's amazing the effect it can have on a business. This dashboard is an example of the S&OP dashboard for our IA and IBP solutions that's built in Looker. Those solutions have a data service that allows you to connect to a ready-to-go data source for S&OP and BI dashboards. You can use tools like Power BI, Tableau, really any major tool that's out there.
So the takeaway is our customers can have access to this type of dashboard, Eric. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing now. So my computer starts to bug out. So, all right. So, next question, moving on. So, best practices. So if companies can remember, it's kind of the golden rule of three. If companies can remember just three things, what would that be, Eric, in your mind?
First one, I say start small and scale fast.
Yeah.
You don't need to have the whole plan right out of the gate or have everything figured out. Start small and just start doing it. Use the data you already have. Just figure out how to use it well. And build cross-functional routines. So even if you don't have a monthly S&OP cycle, getting together on a regular scheduled basis with the right people in the room to talk about supply and talk about demand, how they foot up, where you have gaps. That's a huge value, even if you don't have an entire S&OP process.
Yeah, start small. That's true for so many things.
Yep.
Kind of crawl, walk, run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Michael, what's your takeaway? Top three.
So my top three, number one is, meet the business, meet the company where they are. Some may already started the journey. Some may have been just talking about the journey, but figure out where the company is and, meet them where they are and move the journey forward from there. The second one is visualize the data as much as possible. Um, there are the number of people who could just look at a spreadsheet and digest it, right? They're kind of few and far between. So being able to take that data and make it into something visual really helps move the conversations forward. So visualize is the second one. And the third one is, when we talk about process, for me, process has a very, very specific meaning. For something to be a process, there has to be four components, right? It has to be definable in where we can draw a picture of it, predictable in that we know what's going to happen next, repeatable in that the same thing happens every single time, and trainable, where as new people come into the business or as people evolve in their roles, you can bring people into the process. So, thank you, Jefferson. So for me, when somebody says, hey, we've got a process, right? My first question is, okay, well, are you getting the results that you want? Because if you're not getting the results, well, you may be missing one of these components. So again, definable, predictable, repeatable, and trainable. Definable is you can draw a picture of it. Predictable is you know what the result will be, right? You know what's going to happen. Repeatable is the same thing happens every single time. And trainable means that you're able to teach others and bring them into the process so you could stay aligned, and continue to grow and continue to scale the business.
Got it. So this might be a loaded question, not a rhetorical question, but
Yeah.
how do you know if you're getting it right? If you're getting S&OP right?
Well, so that's a great question. I think the first indicator is the business getting the results that they need? Are they hitting their revenue goals? Are they hitting their fill rate goals? If the business are getting the results that they need, well, then they probably have a pretty solid process.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I'm going to start sharing. So we have a few questions that have come up over the course of this session here. I'll ask the team, or the attendees rather, if you have any questions, we have the Q&A function at the bottom of the toolbar. Please feel free to ask questions as you see fit. But let's just start. So we have one from David here. So question is, what do you see as a common reason for implementing S&OP or Netstock? And maybe you can define the two. I mean, it's like sometimes like, what is the difference between Netstock and S&OP? But it's kind of another loaded question. But how do you see a common reason for implementing either or? Either one of you.
Eric, you want to take this one or?
Yeah, sure. Typically it's because the business is feeling pain. They're not hitting their service level goals or not hitting revenue goals. There's a gap that's causing pain for them. And S&OP is the process that supports closing those gaps and things running effectively. Tools like the ones at Netstock provide the support for that process, provide the platform for maintaining the data and the inputs, doing the forecasts, doing the supply planning. So they're not mutually exclusive. They really support each other.
Mhm.
Okay. Second one, who do you align S&OP process with sorry, hard to read. What do you align S&OP process with a PEEP strategy?
Ooh, okay. So for me, so the way I'm interpreting the question is, if a business is owned by private equity and PE has a growth strategy, how S&OP can align with that is by saying, okay, right, the PE has set the destination, right? Maybe we thought we were going to climb to 5,000 feet, and the PE says, we want to climb to 5,500 feet, 5,500 feet. what that does is that's really creating that first alignment on the destination. And then through the S&OP process, that's where we start to understand in what ways we can execute to hit those goals.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So here's another kind of loaded question. What's an indicator? I'm sorry, no offense, Bob, but what's an indicator that an S&OP's process is not working?
Oh, my favorite one, Jefferson, is people are getting surprised in meetings. Um, uh, to me, one of the biggest investments that a business can make is it's basically pre-meeting. You know, if there's something that's touchy or sensitive or third rail, that if it was just lobbed in the middle of a table during the meeting, it's going to blow up the meeting, then the process is not healthy. Um, S&OP at its core, it's all about communication. So when there's something that pops up, it's being able to walk down to the CFO's office, or the VP ops office or the VP sales office, and say, hey, I'm seeing this trend. Can you help me understand it? Right? Because S&OP is not about playing gotcha. Right? I don't know about you, but I don't like when people play gotcha with me. So, one indicator that an S&OP process is not working is where people are still trying to throw proverbial hand grenades and derail meetings.
So I have to admit, I don't have my proper specs on here. So I'm allowed to clarify. How do you line S&OP with part for every part strategy? Part for every part strategy.
Oh, plan for every part. Okay, so
Part for every part.
yeah, plan for every part. Okay, so and maybe we can tag team this one, Eric. But essentially, that's what Netstock does. I mean, Netstock creates a plan for every part. On one hand, it's the demand plan that says, hey, I'm going to sell this much of this item in this month. And then the supply component is, hey, I either need to cut this many work orders to produce it in manufacturing, or I need to cut this many purchase orders in procurement to support that. So really, by definition, so Netstock does a plan for every part. And then in terms of aligning the S&OP process, really what I found to be most valuable is either segmenting your products like A, B, C, D, and focusing on those that move the needle, or talking about a single part or single SKU in a meeting only where there's an exception. So, I will say this, one thing S&OP should not be is a demand review where we try to talk through the forecast for 100 different SKUs line by line, right? People are gonna tune out. So plan for every part with the tool. I mean, that's literally what the tool is designed to do. And then in the S&OP process, it's focusing on exceptions.
Yeah, and I would great explanation. I would tack onto that from the perspective of tools and people doing forecasting, is that really it's a lot about defining what an exception is. And so the ABC method of dividing up demand to prioritize what you talk about is one way to look at it. Another way is business as usual versus business as unusual. And so when things are stable, similar demand week in and week out, using tools works really well, and even more difficult data when you have a consistent history. Where you really add value in the S&OP process is when you talk about those things that are business as unusual. So they're key drivers of growth. They're large single exceptions that are going to drive a large change in demand at a SKU level. And so, hopefully you can boil down those conversations to a much smaller subset of your SKUs. So you're relying on systems and statistics to drive a high percentage of it. And then the 20% that drives 80% of the volume, you're really having those high quality S&OP conversations.
I have a good one here. What strategies do you find effective for getting buy-in from sales who prefer their own forecasting process and or software?
Oh, I'll take this one. I like this one. So this, the way I interpret this is, okay, whose forecast is right, whose forecast is better. And I have seen this where sales has their own forecast, and the planning team has their own forecast, and the finance team has their own forecast. So in that case, what I like to do is let's let the numbers be the judge. So planning will cast a forecast, finance will cast a forecast, sales will cast a forecast. And what we do is we look at forecast accuracy and figure out who's closest to the pin. And if it happens that sales forecast is closest to the pin, okay, now we have a data-driven reason to say, okay, sales forecast is the best. If planning's forecast is more accurate, right, because they have the tool, they have software, then it becomes a conversation with sales to say, hey, let's figure out how to take your input and make sure it's being captured right in the tools plan. But ultimately, if the demand plan that the planner comes up with is 93% accurate, and the forecast that sales is giving is 83% accurate, well, it's like, hey, I appreciate the input. We want to have the conversations, but based on forecast accuracy, this forecast or this forecast is the better forecast. So for me, instead of becoming an arm wrestling match, it's like, okay, well, let's just let it play out and let's see who comes closest to the pin. And whoever comes closest to the pin consistently over time, that's the forecast that we're going to go with.
Yeah, and in fact, Mike, you're describing one of my favorite metrics, forecast value add, or FVA. So how much better does the forecast get because of a specific adjustment?
Right.
That's a great way to approach what you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's funny. I want to tell a really quick story. So this was back at Goodyear. I hired a planner. His name is Scott Dufour, the smartest guy that I ever worked with. He literally was a rocket scientist. He worked at the NASA Glenn Center in Cleveland, and he would program rocket trajectories for satellite launches. But they're contract based, and they would get laid off like every 4 months. So he came into Goodyear, taught him the system, taught him the process. He was very, very collaborative, very collaborative. He put together a forecast like hand in hand with sales. It was locked in. He felt great. We get into the S&OP meeting, and the gentleman running the business said, it's not good enough. Increase the forecast by 5%. And I can see Scott changing the color of like Jefferson's background. He just turned like purple red, but he had the wherewithal to just be quiet. So we get out of the meeting, and I said, Scott, are you okay? And he says, that's BS. He goes, I know my forecast was right. I said, okay, well, yeah, that's the beautiful thing is we can take Joe's override and our consensus, and we can measure performance. And then he still wound up. And he says, it's still BS. He said, rocket science was easier. And I was like, what? I'm like, how is rocket science easier than forecasting? And he says, in rocket science, all the variables are defined. They're all known. The mass of the vehicle, the thrust of the engines, the pull of gravity, right? They're all known. But in forecasting, right, you got some guy who can say add 5% and it just happens. So that's, and that story is literally 20 years old, but right, it comes down to that collaboration in those conversations.
That's hilarious. I love that. I love that story. So we have a couple minutes left. We have several questions we're not going to get to. But one question is like, how do I use Netstock IBP to implement S&OP? So I think that's probably a larger conversation, but do you want to take a quick shot at that, Eric? Like what's a quick 60-second pitch, and then we can reach back out to Jack to help clarify?
Oh yeah, no, it's about building your forecast cross-functionally. So starting with a good stat forecast and having the right inputs from sales and from marketing, planning your supply to hit your inventory objectives and leverage the policies that you're currently aligned on, and then using capacity to understand how your resources support it. All of that can be an interactive process as you go through the S&OP cycle, modeling different ideas, different strategies that you have in that cycle, then ultimately using the data from that to drive what you present in the meetings.
Yeah, and I would say to anyone on the call that's a client, if you have these customers, please reach out, to myself or to your account manager, and we can help you walk down this path internally. Also, obviously, we have Mike Ryan to help assist with larger projects, but we love to have those conversations. I'm going to take one final stab here. Does Netstock offer any Power BI dashboards like the integrated business planning plan inventory trend that was shown? And the quick answer is, well, you tell the answer. The quick answer is yes, but what do they have to do, Eric, to get those dashboards?
Yeah, so we have a data service for both Inventory Advisor and IBP, Integrated Business Planning. It's hosted by us, it's transformed, we stage it, we do all the work for you. It's ready to go data. We do not market the dashboards, but we're more than happy to help you conceptualize how to put it together. And it's very easily done in any of the major BI tools.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, you can use. I think the example you had was Google Looker Data Studio, but we support all the major BI tools. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
well, look, I think in sake of time here, I will try to share my screen again properly. Fine, closing here. What we've seen today is that S&OP is not just a planning process; it's truly a transformation engine. Here's some key takeaways that our esteemed panel has come up with you guys. I'm not going to read every one. You've got these bullet points in the presentation deck. But as you reflect on your own process, you must ask yourself, if we measured leadership engagement today with our S&OP, would it pass the sniff test? Let you answer that question on your own, may or may not. But at any rate, I just want to thank Eric and Michael for for your time today. There you go. Thank you. Always a pleasure chatting with you both. And ultimately, thanks to our audience. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. Again, feel free to reach out to any of us if you have questions about what we discussed today. But enjoy your day, everyone, and have a great weekend. Have a great Friday and a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.